Welcome. Today, we're going to journey back in time. And what we're going to find is that the history of medieval India isn't just one single story. Oh no, it's this incredible, rich mosaic made up of many, many different worlds.
All right, so let's jump right in by looking at how history was even recorded back then. Before the printing press, everything, and I mean everything, every historical account, every chronicle was copied by hand. Can you imagine? This sheer dedication is amazing. But, and this is a big but, think about the potential for mistakes.
You know, every time a scribe sat down to copy a text, little things could creep in. A word gets misread here, maybe a sentence gets added there for a little extra clarity. Over hundreds of years, these tiny, tiny changes add up. It's basically a massive historical game of telephone, where the original story just, well, it shifts and changes over time.
So that leaves us with a huge question, right? How can we ever know what really happened? I mean, how do you piece it all together when you're looking at copies of copies of copies? But you know what? That challenge, that's exactly what makes digging into the past so fascinating.
Okay, so here's our plan to unpack all of this. First, we'll look for these hidden stories. Then, we're going beyond the royal courts. We'll dive into a revolution of faith, see how new powers rose up, and finally, look at the complex tapestry they created.
All right, first stop. Let's talk about just how fragile these historical records actually are. And it's not just about, a simple typo here and there. Sometimes entire versions of history can just vanish.
Okay, check this out. There was this 14th century chronicler, a guy named Ziauddin Barani. In 1356, he writes his big history. Simple enough. But then, just 2 years later, he writes a new version. And this is the kicker. It was really different from the first one.
And here's the crazy part. For hundreds of years, historians didn't even know that first version existed. They thought the second one was the only one. The original was just lost, buried deep in some library collection until it was rediscovered in the 20th century. I mean, think about that. It just goes to show you that what we call history can literally depend on which piece of paper happens to survive.
Okay, so if even the official records we have are kind of shaky, it makes you wonder, right? Whose stories were being left out completely from the very beginning? Well, for the most part, the official story came from court historians. These guys lived in the big cities, and their main job was to write things that would make the Sultan happy, to get those rich rewards. Their world was the palace. They wrote about big battles, politics, not so much about what life was like for everyday folks. But every now and then you find these little gems. Take this quote from a 12th century Tamil text. It's amazing. It paints this super vivid picture of village life, way out on the fringes, far from any royal court. You can almost see the kids playing. It's a snapshot of a world that the official histories just completely ignored. And it wasn't just about daily life either. We're talking about incredible stories of resistance. Look at Rani Dragavati. She was the queen of the Gond kingdom, a really rich and powerful state. And when the Mughals attacked, she didn't just roll over. She fought back, fiercely. It's such a powerful reminder that history wasn't just happening in the big imperial cities.
So while all of this is going on, the political stuff, the empires, something else is happening. A massive shift. But this one's not happening on a battlefield. It's happening inside people's hearts and minds. It was truly a spiritual revolution.
You start to see these new religious ideas, like Sufism, really take hold. The idea here was, maybe faith isn't just about going through the motions and performing elaborate rituals. Maybe it's about a direct, personal, and really intense connection with God.
And the famous poet Rumi, wow, he just nailed this feeling. He said he looked for God in his own heart, not in some building, not just in a book, but inside himself. For the time, that focus on a personal inner experience, that was absolutely radical.
And these movements were so emotional and, well, participatory. We're talking music, poetry, ecstatic dance. And the best part, it brought everyone together. It didn't matter if you were rich or poor, what your social status was. People from all walks of life found this incredible new sense of community. Then you have thinkers like Kabir, who took it to a whole other level. He basically said, look, stop fighting over names. The divine is the divine, whether you call it Rahim or Ram, and you can find that divinity inside every single one of us. He was all about breaking down the walls that kept people apart.
Okay, so here's the really crucial takeaway. All of these new communities, these new ways of thinking, it wasn't just about religion.
They started to build powerful political identities, and those identities were about to seriously challenge the old empires.
Let's actually take a look at the map. You can see right here where these new groups are starting to pop up. These pockets of power are forming, and they're creating a totally new political landscape. It's a big change from the single massive empires we saw before. So up in the Punjab, you have the Sikh community. They were inspired by Guru Nanak's teachings about equality, and they got incredibly organized. So organized, in fact, that they basically became a state within a state. And well, you can probably guess what happened next. The Mughal emperor saw this as a huge threat, which led to conflict and eventually the creation of the Khalsa, a powerful political and military community. Meanwhile, way down south in the Deccan, another power is on the rise, the Marathas. Led by the absolute genius Shivaji, they used the rugged landscape to their advantage with brilliant guerrilla warfare. But he wasn't just a warrior. He built an efficient administration that became a direct, powerful challenge to the mighty Mughal Empire itself.
So what's the big picture here? What does all this mean? It means that history isn't just about one big empire crumbling and a new one taking its place. It's so much more complicated and, frankly, more interesting than that.
It's about all these different groups, the villagers, the tribes, the saints, the warriors, finally taking center stage. These are the people who were just footnotes, if they were mentioned at all in the old histories. But now, they're the ones driving the change, shaping a brand new future for the subcontinent.
So, when you boil it all down, history is never just one story. It's a chorus of voices. It's a complex, beautiful tapestry woven from so many different threads. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about, doesn't it? Which voices from our own time will be the ones that echo into the future? And which ones might just get lost, waiting in some digital archive for a historian to find them hundreds of years from now?